We'll see you there. You got it.
Yes.
Okay. So I have an article here titled, and by the way, it's IFL Science. I fucking love science. With teen mental health deteriorating over 5 years, there's a likely culprit. So, around 2012, something started to go wrong in the life of teens. Just the 5 years between 2010 and 2015, the number of U.S. teens who felt useless and joyless, classic symptoms of depression, surged 33% in large national surveys. Teen suicide attempts increased 23%. Even more troubling, the number of 13 to 18-year-olds who committed suicide jumped 31%. In a new paper published by Clinical Psychological Science, this person, by the way, who is this person? Let me get their... I hate it when they don't put the article's author as a bio. By Jean Twenge. Okay, good.
Jean Twenge.
My colleagues and I found that increases in depression, suicide attempts, and suicide appeared among teens from every background, more privileged to less, all races, ethnic backgrounds, all regions of the country. All told, their analysis found the generation of teens called, by them, iGen, those born after 95, is much more likely to experience mental health issues than their millennial predecessors. So they wondered what would cause all this. So they went through a bunch of surveys, large surveys with teens for clues. Now, this is not confirmed. This is pulling information from other studies and coming to another conclusion. But they found that all possibilities trace back to a major change in teenagers' lives, which is the ascendance of the smartphone. So between 2010 and 2015, steady economic growth, falling unemployment. So probably economic problems weren't the issue. Income inequality was still an issue. It has been for decades. Didn't suddenly appear then. So that gap between rich and poor shouldn't be anything new. Time spent on homework didn't change significantly, so academic pressure is ruled out. But according to the Pew Research Center, smart chip ownership crossed 50% threshold in late 2012. By 2015, 73% of teens had access to a smartphone. Look, I do the smartphone sign. That's sign language for smartphone.
Hashtag smartphone.
So not only did smartphone use and depression increase in tandem, but time spent online linked to mental health issues across different data sets. Found that teens spent 5 or more hours a day online were 71% more likely than those who spent less than an hour a day. So there's this gap of between 2 and 5, I guess.
Yeah.
To at least have one suicide risk factor. Now that's depression, thinking about suicide, making a suicide plan, or attempting it. Outside or overall, suicide risk factors rose significantly after 2 or more hours per day online.
Well, okay, it says if they're born during a certain time. You think that's because the ones that were prior to this I generation were able to live without technology?
I definitely want to address that, but
Okay.
I don't think this is exclusive to teens. I think this goes all the way up the age ladder.
Okay.
So two followed people, I'm sorry, did I miss a sentence? No. Two followed people over time, with both studies finding that spending more time on social media led to unhappiness, while unhappiness did not lead to more social media use. A third randomly assigned participant to give up Facebook for a week versus continuing their usual use. Those who avoided Facebook reported feeling less depressed. The argument that depression might cause to spend more time online doesn't also explain why depression increased suddenly after 2012. Let me see, and I'm almost done here, guys. Bear with me. A couple more paragraphs. What's lost when we're plugged in? So even if online time doesn't directly harm mental health, it could still adversely affect in indirect ways, especially if time online crowds out time for other activities. To summarize this, they're sleeping less, there's less face-to-face interaction. It's faceless interaction. It's not the same as this, even this. Depression and suicides have many causes: genetic predisposition, family environments, bullying, trauma, etc. But this is something extra going into it. And some vulnerable teens who would otherwise not have mental health issues may have slipped into depression due to too much screen time, not enough face-to-face, and not enough sleep, or a combination of the three. Again, not definitive research. It's looking at a mass of information and drawing a conclusion from it. It's a theory. It's a hypothesis. Okay. I'll hush and let you guys throw thoughts.
Ed, I'll allow you to first respond.
Yeah.
I got you.
Well said.
Devnall.
It's
Night,
a little
Devnall.
bit. Oh, good night, Devnall.
Yeah, we're talking about kids.
We're talking about kids, but
The children!
related to that somewhat. Okay, not just on the depression side. Some other statistics I found out about teens and cell phones just this past week. 21% of teen drivers involved in fatal accidents were distracted by their cell phones. 11
almost a quarter.
teens die each day while texting and driving.
Did you say 11?
11
In the U.S.
in the U.S.
And by the way, this whole study is all U.S. based, by the way.
11.
11.
Darwin, what was it? Survival of the stupidest? Survival of the smartest? Die every day. All right. What else you got, Ed?
Oh, that's all I had. But,
Sure.
yeah, I would definitely say there's some relationship there between. Well, I mean, you gotta tell them it's a fucking computer. They can't even figure that out. I mean,
People freak out. I've had a kid. He started crying. I saw him go through the cry, anger, crying, denial, the whole. It's just a computer. It's just don't. I understand. Okay, Andrea, respond.
You want to read that comment?
Doris says, but for some kids who have issues, the smartphone is a lifesaver. My daughter has been able to make connections and friends online where she has trouble doing in person. I can see that.
How much
But-
does she spend online?
Yeah, do you limit her time on there? Do you monitor it? That could play a role.
Yeah. As we're saying, we're not condemning the use of smartphones
No.
at all. We're just saying if you spend more time on smartphones or computers than living life, you're not living life. It's got to be a balance.
I saw a commercial one time. I think it was for granola bars or something. But this parent and child were out hiking, and the kid kept taking pictures. And it's like, just put the phone away and enjoy the scenery instead of having to enjoying it through the phone. You need to experience life at some point too.
And for her child, I can understand it is a little bit different situation. I assume this is the autistic daughter.
Yes.
Okay, so meeting someone face to face, there's an intimidation factor there that wouldn't necessarily be there between us. But for everyone else, I would have to say, are you really establishing a friendship online? I know for me personally, a friendship is seeing and being in the same room.
Yes.
Well, sometimes I know the internet has helped people with going through certain things to connect with someone else going through the same thing, but not having to really be there with the person. So I understand. So yeah, it has its pros and its cons.
Yeah, it has its pros and its cons.
Dorothalia there says the daughter, has to leave her, again, the daughter's, or kid, I'm sorry. No, daughter, okay, good. Downstairs at night, has to turn it in after school until her chores are done. And that's called parenting.
That's
You're
awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's realizing you're not going to let them detract from what needs to be done for this.
Well, we were watching some trailers to a movie yesterday, and it's like, oh, I'm so glad the smartphone has this app because it can entertain my kids.
Oh, I'm suddenly
Oh,
starting.
he went off.
Yeah, she's doing something. Suddenly, I'm yelling at the TV. The fuck is wrong with you?
You shouldn't have to entertain your kids with this electronics all the time.
They were talking about going grocery shopping.
Yeah.
And now I can take my kid grocery shopping because I don't have to entertain them, and I'm yelling at the TV.
Yeah. You know.
Because, I don't think you need an electronic device to entertain your kid when you... there's a variety of choices.
Involve them in the grocery shopping, too. I mean, if they're old enough to sit there and hold a phone, you could say, hey, let's read the list. Let's practice your reading. Let's practice math,
Tell me what numbers are on that.
Yeah.
Whatever. But also Dora says, but where she has issues with social cues, the online friends remove the visual cues she can't get.
Right, and that's where I get that for her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Right, absolutely. And I tell you what, sometimes it's nice for me to remove those social cues. Other times, online interaction can be more confusing.
I hate it. Right, it's confusing as hell to me. It's like, I can't see your face. I don't know what you're typing here.
Or hear the tone, and it's
you
so
can't type
easy
a tone.
to take them at their word when you can't read other cues. Mm-hmm. And believe if they say, I'm your best... Uh-oh, Elizabeth froze.
She's just being very still.
Squirrel. Okay, this is totally a squirrel, but somebody just said taking the kids grocery shopping and having Andrea taking part in the list, the math, and so forth. Does anybody play the license plate game anymore when they're driving long distances with their kids? I said that to somebody a couple weeks ago, and they looked at me like I was out of my mind. I was like,
no, because 4 teens every day are killed when playing the license plate by people going, why are you looking at my car, and shooting the fuckers?
Don't point.
You just look and say, I saw Alaska, I saw California.
Now, Elizabeth, I know we have saved you for last because we know you have a couple stories that relate to this and a lot of opinion that relates to it.
Oh, wow.
So, and we don't even know if they match what we've said or are totally the other side of the court here, but I'm curious to hear. Andrea, did you have anything else to add to what? Okay, go on.
I think it depends on so much of life and parent involvement. Oh, my phone. Okay, I tried to find this article real quick and I couldn't find it, but there was a Canadian study that studied the influence of smartphones on child brain development, and it was not just a phone, a screen, the flickering light. People need to realize that flickering light, the way that light operates, it puts your brain on a different level. It interferes with REM sleep. If you're having trouble sleeping, you need to shut any screen off an hour before you go to bed. Mm-hmm. They discovered that it was any kind of screen that you give a toddler, a baby, even babies near a screen, it's interfering with the pathways that are being developed in the brain. I did find a quick article. It says, kids who use smartphones start talking later.
Huh.
Okay. Now, there's a couple disturbing things real quick.
I love how you say it while laughing. Thank you.
900 children between 6 months and 2 years old. You would let a 6-month-old stare at your smartphone? Really?
Not a $1,000 phone. No.
And a 6-month-old's going to go, and you would let your 6-month-old suck on something that's, wherever it's been.
Oh.
That's a no.
Okay, anyway, it basically said it's interrupting the development of language and ability to talk. Okay. I've been teaching for 12 years. So within the study of what you've read and we're talking about. Okay, the children I find that are the most intelligent, the most that you say, oh, what instrument you play? Oh, I play guitar, flute, trumpet, piano. They go down the gambit. They have limited television hours that the parents allow them to watch. And when they do watch television, it's film or stuff they all agree on. They are not left alone with a computer. They are not, the parents pay attention to what they're reading, what they're watching. I think this is the destruction of a generation or two. This computer, this malleable computer. The students in my class that I teach now have no attention span. They get frustrated easily. They give up immediately and they want the next fulfillment. They cannot sit and quietly be bored. And as an artist and as a humanist, it is important that people are bored. It is important you get used to the sound of your own voice, of your own soul, and you entertain yourself.
Sit in silence.
Sit in silence. This is the destruction of generations.
Being constructively bored is a skill set that's very important for your self-development.
Yes.
And by the way, with my son, when he comes home, I go put the phone here, go do your homework, do your chores. At night, I says, leave it down below. He's got a loft bed. Leave it down below. You can turn the alarm on, but turn your sound off, so you don't hear the notifications at 2 in the morning and wake you up. Because the alarm, by the way, everybody, your alarm still goes off even if you have your sound turned off.
Yes. And remember, they have made this, and they make algorithms that not only, okay, you get a like, or someone says, oh, I like your picture. You get a little burst of dopamine. You hit a button, a little burst of dopamine in your brain. Oh, I feel so much better.
We talked about that on a previous show.
Yeah, you hear someone else's phone go off, you need to reach for yours. This is an addiction. You're being programmed. We are being programmed. It's screwing people up. As a teacher, I detest smartphones. I love the fact I can look up any word. I love the fact I can look up anything and research it, but it's being abused, and
it's no longer a tool.
It's no longer a tool.
It's an addiction.
Yes.
And I mean, I love that the mobile studio. It's great. I can record video, audio.
And I love your videos, by the way.
Oh, thank you. That's kind of you. It's, by the way, there's a bit of conversation here. Dora saying, I see people in the stores or restaurants letting their little kids watch iPads or tablets all the time.
And not talk to them. It's your child.
This is why they have crayons and coloring placemats in restaurants. Take advantage of it.
Oh, that's something else. Syrinx, previous said, don't let them look through your pictures. Yes, very true. He also says, feeling your phone vibrate in your pocket even when it didn't.
Yep.
The phantom vibration,
Hearing it go off.
Okay, I got to say something about that. That is one of the, having MS, that is one of the effects of me. I often feel a vibration in the top of my legs, and it's like I'm reaching for my fucking phone.
You do.
And it's
Dora went on to say, my kids had toys in the diaper bag, no electronics.
Yeah.
Ian said, when my son and a friend or two would road trip, I'd let them choose which direction, and the places we'd find randomly would be so very cool. I never realized we had so many antique car museums.
That's a great idea. Let's do that.
I like that.
Just not take the kids.
Kevin, social assassin, says our kids are exchanging the power of imagination for prepackaged bite-sized clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This whole conversation will probably be clipped as a highlight because this is, yes.
This needs to be a 3-hour-long discussion.
It could be.
It really does.
Elizabeth,
remember that for the planning session.
I don't know if you're getting to it, but you mentioned you spoke to other teachers about this.
I did.
And I would love to hear about that conversation, please.
Okay. Teachers are shocked at how kids have no shame or embarrassment. In fact, it was mentioned in these kids after the shooting in Orlando, how they say, we don't have respect for you just because you're older or have a title. We don't have respect for you. And I find that shocking that you wouldn't at least number one, give respect to anyone outside yourself or yourself. Because when you're respecting yourself, you extend that to others. They don't respect anyone older than them. But children now...
That would be they don't respect anybody more than 5 years older.
Anyone.
Because
They don't respect anyone. I don't think they respect
A
themselves.
13-year-old will absolutely listen to a 16-year-old's piece of advice. But once a 20-year-old is giving that 13-year-old advice, it's no longer valuable.
Because they don't understand.
Yeah, they don't.
Is
they
that
don't,
advice from the 16-year-old, or is it a form of peer pressure?
We could debate that one, too.
They don't have a attention span. They cannot pay attention to longer than 6 seconds of Vine video. They are very aggressive now, and they're very much into mob mentality. And this is what's odd that's happening.
Social media, hello.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm talking to you. Okay. They will create so much noise. Yeah, exactly. You can't get their attention. You can't yell loud enough to silence them.
But you can't yell because that'll hurt their feelings and you'll get in trouble.
Well, I don't want to yell because then they know they've got me, and then they'll just keep me yelling, and then I fall into that loop.
Right.
It's shocking. It's shocking. And once again, when I tell the parents and the behavior, some parents excuse it, some parents don't care. Another parent slapped their child in the face right in front of me and everyone else. I mean, just BAM!
Sorry to interrupt. Oh, go ahead.
However, he behaved like an angel today. So.
Ian said electronics are just like any other addiction. So as long as you remain moderate with its use, it's a good thing. You know, like scotch, fast food, or cigars. Won't kill you if you remember everything in moderation.
Not. I kind of agree, but
let me read the other two comments and then definitely go on.
Go for it.
Mo basically missed the last hour due to grandmother. Quick recap. Sorry for the bother. Mo, what we're discussing is the rising of the smartphone generation and how depression has increased with people getting smartphones because less direct interaction.
And the suicide rate.
And now we're discussing the whole change in behavior of children that are school age, etc. Searing said, and then Elizabeth, we're right back to you after that. Searing said, depends on the use of electronics. Is it a tool or a time waster? And as a musician, I have several electronics I would consider a tool. That would also include my computer. Absolutely. Okay, Elizabeth, thank you.
Sure, no problem. I mean, I somewhat agree with that statement. However, these are children we're talking about. These are children.
Yes.
And I don't care how smart your child is. I don't care how eloquent they can recite a poem over it. They're still children. They are not fully functioning adults until you're 25. Your brain is not done developing. And yes, this is a lovely tool. I love this tool. I have a lot of fun with it. I have a lot of education from it. But these are children. And because it's not like smoking, it's not like drinking. Smoking, drinking, drugs, you get an immediate effect of your puke.
I think Ian was referring to adults because we don't let our children have scotch, fast food, and cigars because they're way too expensive to give to kids.
Right, and I don't think he meant to actually have it as an addiction, okay?
Okay, then let's try it from this point of view.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, Elizabeth.
Okay, my first degree was social science. I was in criminology. I studied at Fresno State University. Fresno is the #1 pedophilia capital of the world in the internet.
Really?
Someone is always watching or reading when you're on the computer on the internet. And people buy their kids these phones and let them go willy-nilly on the internet, on Facebook and everything, and they never give regard to who's watching their children. And that is the scary part. There is no privacy. There is no, and the children are being lured through algorithms to spend more and more time on this, and they're not safe.
I think that's the moderation part.
I hope to God it is. But I see third graders running around with phones nicer than mine.
I was on the internet I read a lot of articles.
You dirty girl.
No, I read this article this morning about these two girls. Well, it was basically about someone at an airport, and she was concerned about these two young girls that were traveling first class to another state and only had a small bag, and whenever she'd ask them questions, they would text and then give an answer. This is where the internet is.
That's weird.
Yeah, this is where the internet, can be dangerous without moderation or parents taking it away. The girls met someone online. Each told the other parents that they were staying at, the other kid's house for the night, and they were getting ready to travel to New York to meet this guy to do modeling. And it was a one-way ticket. It was a one-way ticket. They didn't know that. It was basically a sex trafficking thing. But the lady at the airline caught these signs and got the police involved before they got on there. So
what airline was it?
I don't remember.
Oh, that lady, that stewardess. Yeah, she's my hero of the week.
Was it a passenger or an employee?
It was an employee. When you go your ticket, when you pick up your ticket.
Okay.
And remember, anytime you're on a plane, you're on federal regulation. Don't piss off the stewardesses.
And Dora says, my step-grandson literally doesn't have the attention span to watch an entire music video. He spends all his time watching videos, and it worries me.
Wow.
Social assassin, Kevin, then says, my kids are 15 and 16. Neither has Facebook. Their friends regard them as odd for this. I couldn't be happier.
Kevin!
So, okay, Elizabeth, you have more to go on?
I think, and I said this today in discussion with teachers, and, I am very much, I truly believe in individual freedom. I truly do. It wouldn't break my heart, though, if in America they limited cell phone use to kids under a certain age. Like if you were under, 18, you could only have a flip phone. It is truly detrimental. And people would say, oh, well, would object. Come to a class and teach these children. It's frightening.
You know what? Stay home and try to teach your own child and see what they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Well, you shouldn't teach your own child. You should have someone else come in and beat the crap out of them.
What?
Well, ever since Mike Tyson retired, he still has a fruitful career.
Hey, if your little guy needs tutoring, sometimes it's instinctual to fight your parent. Sometimes they don't fight someone outside the nest. So
correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
I do tutor, so
So